There are many factors needed to be successful in the workplace and in social life. One of the most important and must-have is social skills. What are social skills? Social skills are the skills to communicate with others on a daily basis in a variety of ways, including verbal, nonverbal, written, and visual. Why is it important? Social skills can help us communicate more effectively and efficiently, which in turn makes it easier for us to build, maintain, and grow relationships with colleagues, clients, or new acquaintances. These skills are important to maintain and improve. From a long time ago, many books have been written to understand how to improve social skills, because it cannot be denied that social skills are the main key in living a better social life or in the world of work. One of the classic self-development books that discusses social skills is How to Win Friends and Influence People, written by Dale Carnegie. This book was written in 1936, almost 100 years ago, but until now, this book is still known to be effective to apply. What I want to discuss in this video is a book that has been updated and rewritten by the Dale Carnegie team, and of course has been adapted to the digital era like now. How to Win Friends and Influence People in the Digital Age. Make sure you watch this video until the end so that you get full insight, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss other awesome book summary videos. How to communicate for success in the digital age. Proper interaction and communication play an important role in supporting you to achieve personal and professional success. The basic principles of communication, written by Dale Carnegie in 1936, are still relevant today, even though some conditions have changed. While digital tools and social media have shifted some of our friendships and communications to the virtual world, the principles of putting others first remain an effective way to build more sustainable influence. In this book, you will gain an understanding of the basic principles of socializing, according to Dale Carnegie, and how they are relevant in this digital age. To have a sustainable influence, you don't have to show your prowess, but simply express respect, empathy, and kindness. Interesting things you can learn include: why in socializing, you need to consider the needs of others before speaking. How to make a lasting impression on others. How to build empathetic interactions through digital media. And why questions are often more effective in encouraging people to do something than direct commands. Most likely, dealing with people is probably the biggest problem you face. Dale Carnegie. Positive reinforcement is needed to build engagement. The first thing you need to remember in order to build deep influence is to avoid negative words, especially words of anger, scolding, and negative criticism. Friendship, or human relationships in general, is not a battlefield where the right side has the right to speak more than the wrong side. The habit of criticizing and complaining is a habit that is neither good personally nor for building relationships with others. Unfortunately, this habit is increasing in the digital age. The habit of criticizing can damage a relationship, no matter if the criticism is right or wrong. Furthermore, the habit of judgment should be replaced with compassion and kindness. Avoid the habit of finding fault and start the habit of complimenting the good things that others do. Acknowledge others when you encounter disagreements or mistakes. This acknowledgement is not necessarily to show that you are weak or passive, but rather to show that there is good in everyone. This kind of recognition and reinforcement is more effective in convincing others. Finally, to build engagement, you need to think about the other person's core needs. The ability to influence does not lie in one's position, nor in education or experience, but rather in the ability to put the needs of others first. You can win people over if you can show interest in their needs. This is also true in the process of selling a product or branding a product. If a salesperson fails to communicate the core needs of the prospective buyer, then the sale will most likely fail. Leave a lasting impression on others' minds. There are 6 ways to make a lasting impression on others. First, start taking an interest in the other person's interests. Naturally, everyone's interests are self-focused, which is often a hindrance in human relationships. However, if you are not interested in others, then others will not be interested in you either. Remember that human relationships are always easier if they start with liking. In the digital age, you have various mediums that make it easier to understand other people's interests, so make use of them. Second, smile more to make a lasting impression because everyone loves a smile. Some studies have even shown that smiles are contagious. This happens for the simple reason that smiling shows others that we are happy with them, so in return, they smile to show the same. This is also true in the digital age. When communication is mostly done in writing, emotions are often invisible. Of course, word choice is very important to show your emotions in written communication, but you can also utilize emojis or emoticons. Third, recognize, remember, and mention the other person's name in communication. It is common knowledge that mentioning a customer's name can give a personal touch to service, and this also applies to human relationships in general. If you remember other people's names, other people will remember you. To remember other people's names, you can confirm pronunciation and spelling, and associate the name with the person's features or expressions. In the digital age, the sheer number of friendships on social media makes it harder to remember names, but it is still important. The greeting, "Good morning Rudy" or "Good Irma" will go down better in an email than "Hello," "Hi," or "Good morning." Fourth, listen longer. People want to be heard. Good listening leaves a lasting impression, a strong connection, and builds trust. The key is to be present. Suspend your own thoughts, and give full attention to what the other person has to say. Fifth, discuss what matters to them. Don't just push your message. Focus on what really matters to the other person. And sixth, leave others a little better. The best way to build relationships is to add value to others. A deep impression will also be formed when you prioritize the other person. When interacting, make sure you pay enough attention to the other person. Often all the other person needs is to be heard and understood. By paying attention, you can become a trusted person and a burden lifter of the problems that others face. It is ironic that in the digital age, when communication media are increasingly diverse, people are becoming more socially isolated. A study shows that the number of people Americans are closest to has decreased from 3 to 2. This is because an important element of paying attention is presence. Next, you should discuss something that is important to the other person to capture their attention. The quality of a relationship is not just the connection, but the trust. Followers or fans on social media are not necessarily friends, so their level of commitment is lower. Therefore, it is important to be meaningful to the other person so that your message is received. Finally, making others feel better can make you memorable. If you can't motivate people to interact with you, then interaction won't happen. Humility is important for building and maintaining trust. There are several things that need to be done to build and maintain trust. The first is to avoid unnecessary arguments, because arguments will end up with one party being more convinced of its truth. Along the same lines, never be tempted to blame others. Naturally, we all like personal victories, in other words, thinking we are right and others are wrong. By changing your perception and habit of being right, you can avoid arguments and maintain trust at the same time. Admitting one's own mistakes is a challenge. Though it would be easier for someone to blame themselves than to be blamed by others later. Admitting mistakes and apologizing requires courage because of the fear of negative opinions. People tend to give forgiveness and kindness in response to others who realize and admit their mistakes. A friendly attitude is also absolutely necessary to build trust. With friendliness, familiarity will arise. Furthermore, liking attracts liking, so building affinity is also important. Forming affinity means opening yourself up to receive someone and seeking common ground with that person. To build affinity, say yes more than no when you start interacting with others. Another thing to do is to acknowledge others. This is very difficult to do because everyone naturally wants to be recognized. However, this can work in your favor in terms of gaining trust. By giving recognition to others, you will get reciprocity. You also need to inspire good qualities in the person you want to influence. Because everyone wants to be part of something bigger, more important, and nobler than themselves. By giving respect and honoring the other person, you can evoke goodness in that person. In addition, you can also influence others by sharing your purpose with them. By making your purpose a shared purpose, you can bring others along on your life journey. A subtle approach is needed to avoid resistance to a change. To initiate a change, you need to start with the positive. To be able to communicate unpleasant topics positively, you can do this. First, start with praise, as it is easier to accept criticism after hearing praise, but make sure your praise is sincere. Second, ensure a smooth flow during the conversation. And third, give constructive advice, not just criticism. You also need to acknowledge your shortcomings, so that trust in you can be built. By showing that you are not a perfect human being, others will find it easier to connect with you. In practice, you could start the conversation with, "What you did was wrong, but the mistakes I've made were worse. You were better than me at your age," and so on. Some people hate direct criticism, so it is important that you are able to address mistakes without drawing attention to them directly. Think of mistakes and failures as something that can be redeemed and dealt with, not something dangerous that must be announced. Furthermore, you also need to make light of the mistake by forgiving and remembering the mistake so that it does not happen again, but without demeaning the other person's ego. And did you know that questions are proven to be more effective in getting people more involved? Therefore, instead of using direct orders, you can use questions to influence and encourage others to make changes. Questions create conversation and allow everyone to feel involved. You also need to focus on progress to provide continuous encouragement and motivation. When you focus on shortcomings and mistakes, you will constantly criticize, which will not be effective in encouraging others. Praise and gratitude can be powerful motivators to boost others' potential to overcome challenges. Not only that, you also need to give others a good reputation. By pinning something good, you give confidence that the person can achieve the position or characteristic you pin. Abilities wither under criticism, and they blossom under encouragement. Dale Carnegie. Book conclusion. 3 things to influence others are: avoid getting angry with others, focus on the positive, and understand others' interests. You can build a deep impression if you can show interest in the other person, smile, remember names, and make them feel better. Trust is built on closeness. Therefore, arguments are a poor way to build trust. It is a friendly, familiar, and empathetic attitude in acknowledging shortcomings that builds trust. Forgiving mistakes is important to preserve the ego of others, but it does not mean that you agree to the same mistakes. People are more likely to be moved if they feel involved, so use questions instead of commands to motivate others.